Alright, welcome back to the SuperCoach Nuff channel. In this video we're going to look at the week 3 trials team list. So the final week of trials, hoping to see a lot more sort of closer teams to what the NRL will be rolling out in round 1 in preparation for SuperCoach and NRL Fantasy as well for those that play that. Just before we get into the team list, it is just gone past 3 o'clock, but a couple of quick shout outs or announcements, I suppose. The first one is that we now have a 5th head-to-head league created, thanks to all you legends for getting on board. Probably a bit ambitious. We'll see how we go with filling this one, given that we're not that far away from the start of the season. But I don't know why I've gone to the invite section, maybe to copy that. But you'll see the league code there, 870809. But I will put the link in the description below this video if you wanted to join. The other thing before I forget is the draft league, so the redraft league. So we've currently got 6 players coming back from last year, so we've got room for 6 more. The draft will be next Monday night at the 23rd of Feb, 6 p.m. I think that's Brisbane time, so maybe just have a quick check of it once you've signed up. But where do I get the invite for this? Oh, boo. I'll find it somewhere in my league, perhaps. Invite others, here we go. So there you go, there's the league code for draft. So just remember with draft you have to go into the draft stage and sign up. But again, I'll put the link in the description to make it nice and easy. So the draft code is 955084. As I said, the draft's on Monday night. You're more than welcome to auto draft if you like, but I think drafting's the best part of it, to be fair. Yeah, so jump on board if you're interested in a bit of draft action, and we'll have that video on the 23rd. But yeah, now I've done all the plugging. I'm pretty sure if I hit the refresh, we'll get some teams. Here we go. So I did see as well Leo Thompson out for 10 weeks, a bit flat for the new Bulldog, but some big names here, which is what we want to see with the trials. So the first game, Warriors Dolphins. So for the Warriors, CNK at fullback. So Tanner Boyd at halfback. Yeah, pretty much a full strength forward pack, which is interesting to see Stowers Smith starting. Could be a bit of a cheapy mid. Like Alasima on the bench is not good news. Jacob Laban getting the start. Well, I think they tricked us with this at the end of at the start of last year too. So, but yeah, definitely putting a bit of a question mark on Halasima there. And for the Dolphins, so Trey Fuller named at fullback, but no Hammer named. So where does he fit into this team? You'd imagine it would be at the expense of Jake Averillo at centre. So we might just have to wait before full sending Trey Fuller as the fullback. But Nicarima and Katoa in the halves. The forwards, so Brad Schneider named in the 9. So word on the street was Kurt Donahue was going to play there to start the season, but he's not named in the squad, so he might be injured at the moment. So it might just be a precautionary thing. But Tommy Gilbert named it prop again. So Tom Flegler on the bench. So pretty full strength looking team. So Morgan Knowles in the 13. So again, no Max Plath either. So it'll be interesting to see what his minutes are like come NRL time. Lemulelu and Oren Keeley named on the edge, with Fini Fuyaki coming off the bench. So the Tigers, Panthers is the next one. The Tigers. So interestingly named Macassini on the wing, but no Skelton named in the extended squad. So, probably suggest he's the next one off the rank if he hasn't already leapfrogged Skelton into the starting team. Um, Other than that, that's pretty full strength in the back line. The forward pack looks pretty full strength too, with Bunty Afoa named to start in the front row, and Bolle, Alex Twal in the 13. So no Terrell May, which is interesting. Doesn't say why he's not there, so it just says remains sidelined. Actually, I should have looked up here as well for that. Yeah, so it just says Hamiso will miss Friday's trial. We don't know where he'll slot in. So tomorrow, Martin out for 12 weeks after breaking his leg. So I think Tanner Boyd's locked into the 7 to start the season there. Should actually read these descriptions. The Panthers, sorry for that pause in the video. Looking pretty full strength. So Jenkins, no McLean, I think is the one that's missing there. So again, I'll just skip down and have a look. Doesn't really explain it, but that's fine. I'm sure he'll slot in the centres. So maybe it's between Alamotti and Jenkins for that last spot. Perhaps Alamotti just moving to the centres to accommodate that change. But I guess the interesting one in the forwards is Papali and Kalani going named to start on the edge. So no Liam Martin, no Scott Sorensen named, unless they're on the extended bench. No. So it could be interesting to see how they fit into the lineups come season proper. Freddie Lussick, didn't realise he'd come across to the Panthers either, so he'll get a run off the bench. Nice. Yeah, so Liam Martin's in cotton wool. Don't know what goes with Scott Sorensen. So Isaiah Papali is an interesting one, and then Kalani Going is a really interesting one. Sharks Raiders. So the Sharks pretty much rolling out full strength. By the looks of it, no real surprises either. Jesse Colquhoun named in the 13 and only gone with the 23-man squad, so we should see some good rotation there of their forwards. And then for the Raiders, so still not going full strength. So we're not going to get to see the halves of Sanders and Saunders. I think it is. I can't remember. The two Ethans anyway. Do you get another Ethan there and LA here? But Dane Laurie to start at fullback. So Seb Chris, Sav Tamale, Xavier Savage. So a few more first graders sprinkled in. Noel Martin getting a start on the edge alongside Matt Nicholson. Um, yeah, so Chevy Stewart coming off the bench. So you could see a bit of Dane Laurie going back into the halves in the second half, that sort of thing. Jaden Brayley named to start, which is interesting. Zach Hosking named in the 10 as well, I just noticed. So I guess that probably locks in Matty Nicholson for an edge spot moving forward. But definitely a few big hitters to come back there for the Raiders. Roosters, Eels. So the Roosters sort of half and half in terms of a full strength squad in the back line with no Daniel Tupou and no escapes me, Rob Toya in the back line, but Cherry Evans and Sam Walker to start alongside each other. The forward pack looks like it's pretty close to the starting forward pack, which is interesting if Steep does get the start in the 13 with Connor Watson coming off the bench in the 14. But, probably one to wait more for round one. And then the Eels. just having a look right through their team, pretty full strength. So, um, yeah, Peasant and Moses starting in the halves, Hopgood in the front row, DeBellin at 13, Jack Williams and Kautoga on the edges. So 80 minutes there, you'd imagine, come NRL season. Uh, and then, yeah, pretty full strength looking team there from the Eels. Let's just have a quick look. Doesn't really say about the guys that are missing there. Yep. Storm Titans on Saturday nights. So for the Storm, so a bit more of their NRL squad there. Failongo gets to go at the back. Will Warbrick, Nick Meaney in the starting team, but Seve and Leo named on the wing. Munster and Wisharts, and no Jerome Hughes in the trial. Harry Grant at at hooker. So interesting, Joe Chan and Lasardi both starting on the edge. So might have a look who's playing right edge, as they might have an advantage. Imagine Sean Bloor would be on the left edge still, um, and then yeah, I guess just a few there. Bench options. So Jack Hetherington named on the extended reserve, so probably not much of a chance of the starting 19 for those that have him in the team. And for the Titans, so just have a look through. It looks pretty full strength. So Keanu Kinney at fullback, Sammy Fiernay, Fafita, and Fayamani. The back line, Brimson and Campbell in the halves. So Tino named at prop, Chris Randall at lock. So that's good news for my NRL fantasy team. Paxton named on the edge. And then the bench, Morris, Haas, Simpkins, and Byer. So you'd imagine they'll be the four forwards coming off the bench. And then they'll probably have, a half. So maybe like a Lachlan Ilias and an outside back. So perhaps a Jalen Groot on the 18, 19 sort of spots. So, yeah, that's good news for those that have Cooper Bye. Obviously, Paxton's looking good. As I said, I like Randall for fantasy. So, good stuff. Rabbitohs, Sea Eagles. So, the Rabbitohs, interestingly, gone with Ashton Ward in the seventh. So, there was a bit of chat that Bud Sullivan might get the gig, but he's not in the extended squad. So, maybe he's injured. Doesn't have anything about that here. But that could be very interesting for fantasy if he does get that start for the first 2 weeks before we get to see Jamie Humphries come back in. Imagine he would slot straight back into the seven. But Brandon Smith named to start in the nine, which definitely does his stocks no harm. And then the bench, so can't take too much from this, I don't think. Having Humphries, Mammazelis, and Garlic all named in the starting 17. Ewan Aitken might be that edge cover on the bench. So, yeah, imagine Mammazelis at hooker. Garlic could probably play as a middle forward, so he might play in a lock forward type role, or even as a prop, I suppose. And then you imagine probably like your Hubners, Adam Elliott, Sean Keppie would flesh out that 6-man bench. For the Seagulls, so no Tom Travojevic named, but aside from that, pretty full strength back line. Interestingly, they've gone with Falalo at fullbacks. Obviously, Hobawati will start on the wing. They're just sorting like for like combinations there. In the forward, so Hugo Hart named in the 11, and what's a pretty full strength team? I guess Olaquatu needs to come back, so you imagine that would be a straight swap there. But considering I've never heard of the kid, might be one to have a look at as a mid-season downgrade if there's an injury there. On the bench, Joey Walsh. So you imagine he'll play a bit of hooker spelling Simpkin. Blake Wilson will cover somewhere in the back line. Zach Docker Clay named in the 18, which is interesting. I think maybe the versatility of Walsh playing in the halves as well could get him the gig. But a pretty short squad there too, so pretty interesting. And that's it. I forgot there's only 6 games with the Vegas guys gone. The Broncos playing the World Club Challenge. I don't know if their team's named yet, but I imagine it'd be pretty full strength anyway. Yeah, so I guess some of the takeaways are just confirming some of the whispers we already knew. The likes of the Titans lineup. There's a couple that are wheels up there. Um, Brandon Smith starting at hooker is a good sign for those that have him. Um, yeah. So Macassini is definitely one to keep an eye on. I think with Supercoach, I'll still sort of leave him as a round 4 trade in. If he does come to fruition, he could be a straight swap for a Tom Chester, for example, if that doesn't pan out. Um, and then, yeah, probably just the alarm bells on Lecker. So, might need to make some moves there. Also, no, well, Taintua Picky in the 18. So, it looks like he is a bust as far as my pod picks go. So, we'll have a look at the team. So, this is pre that team announcement, obviously. Samani, Brandon Smith at hooker, I'm happy with. The forward pack, I think I'm mostly happy with. I think Halasima has to go. So the question is, who do we bring in for Halasima? Um, so I had sort of restructured the back line a bit too. So after last week's trials, a bit too scared to try Kalen Ponga. So Drinkwater's at fullback, and I've gone with Dan Atkinson. Um, and I'm probably happy to play Ethan Sanders in week 1 to put him in the flex. So I've gone with that. Um, and I had already sort of faded to Peaky in Supercoach just because it sounds like Chester's locked in for the first 2 rounds at least. These 2 guys I think are locked in, so we had to have the 3 cheapies. I wanted to keep the 4 guns. So it was, yeah, 2 Peaky who had to go. So basically, I think the squad's pretty set. So it gives us 540k to spend on a front rower or a second rower because obviously I've got Mooney and Couchman can flex. So if we go down in the second row, so Jai Arrow, Caltoga. Where was Arrow named? Was he not? I don't think he was named in the trial, was he? I could go the other way. Roosters, Storm, Rabbitohs. So yeah, he wasn't named as well. So he's another one that's got to slot into that team somewhere. But yeah, probably not that interested. So Jermaine Hopgood with the dual position. He's featured in the team previously, so he's on the short list. Um, Fine, he's got the buy round 1. Yeah, if Kurt Donahue was named to start at hooker, I'd be very tempted, but not sure what's going on there. Might be an injury. Actually, I can have a look at the injury list. It is updated. How updated, we'll see. Um, so, Dolphins. So, yeah, not named on there. So, I didn't think it would be overly populated at this point. Yeah, probably not worth looking at, to be honest. So, Chris Randall, I think he is more of a fantasy pick with their focus more on the workload, but I think he will outscore his average of 46, but probably just not by enough to warrant wanting to bring him in. Smithies. So we're getting pretty cheap at this point. Like a Cleese Haas, he's looked pretty good. He should get dual position, you'd imagine, playing in the middle, but maybe they'll just say he's playing 13 and not give it to him. Could go back to Hamish Stewart, but I think there's not enough upside. I think we can play for a bit more upside in Supercoach. So Blake Steep and Oren Keeley are interesting at that high 300s. Price Steep starting in the 13, but Keeley on the edge for the Dolphins. I was hoping he'd sort of spend the season more on the bench and I could sneak him in next year when he moves to the Storm, but might be too late by then. So maybe Thomas Can if he was named to start in Vegas. So Gannon coming off the bench, probably not. Jesse Colquhoun. Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of meat on the bone there, but not much. Um, yeah, after that, I think we've got most of the other options. None of these cheapies popped up. Did they keep a buy, I suppose, in the starting 17? Do we go super cheap? Would we want to upgrade anywhere though? I don't think so, looking across the board. So I think I'm happy to spend the cash. But just double check. Yeah, it's fine. Just have a quick look at front rowers as well around that price point because we do have the ability to flex. So they're not highlighted, are they? Because you can't move them there yet. Where are we up to? 540. So just out of reach of Leo Thompson, but that's fine. He's not playing. So Mitch Barnett we like, but he's not going to be back in time for round one. Yeah, just looking at mid-price front rowers, it's a bit of a case of you're kidding yourself. Um, yeah, so I think at this point the options are we either go with, I'm going to go back to the second row. We go with Jermaine Hopgood, which uses up most of the cash. You imagine would have the most output in terms of points. Or we save a bit of cash and go back to Hamish Stewart. So it keeps a bit of money in the bank in case we do need to get out of the double cheap halfback situation. We could upgrade a little bit, albeit not much. Or if we're going to go the dual position option, we could just go with Colquhoun and bank 200k, which I guess then if you wanted to, you could upgrade Marnie to a Harry Grant. Um, yeah, but pretty happy with that hooking combination. I'm happy to let Brandon Smith gain a bit of cash and turn into Harry Grant later. Um, Not in a rush there. So I think it's going to be Colquhoun or it's going to be Hopgood. I guess the other thing, if I went with Colquhoun, I could go from Purdue. I forgot to mention I made that move, but I could go back to Munster for another 130. So, because I was probably a little bit over invested in the Cowboys, but they do have a good early run. So it's not the worst shout. But then that still gives us enough to get up Hamish Stewart potentially. Or Jermaine McEwen if he's named to start, for example. Um, Actually, I reckon for now, if we go Colquhoun, because what that'll do is it'll allow us to put Mooney in the starting team and lock one away. We can swap these two around however we want. Um, but Yeah, so it'll probably be something like that to start the season. Probably start Lasardi over Padston, assuming Lasardi gets the start there. So I think that's it. The updated team. We're getting pretty close to what it will look like. I think come round one, obviously nothing's locked in until team list Tuesday in a couple of weeks' time. Um, but yeah, let us know what you think in the comments below this video. Speaking about below this video, remember to join in the head-to-head league if you want. Um, league code there one final time. There'll be a link to the open league as well if you haven't yet joined that. So that's open to everyone, and that's just first past the post. I'll add the link for the draft league as well if you want to have a go at the draft. That video, live stream, whatever you want to call it, will be on Monday night. I think there'll be a couple of live streams next week with the Dynasty League as well. Getting our redraft on there. Yeah, other than that, give us a like if you enjoy the SuperCoach content. Subscribe for fantasy sports content on the channel. And other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.